I've got a great message for you this evening. We're going to be talking about the number one thing that you fight against when you're dealing with narcissistic people, because it's not what you think it is. I feel like we get caught up fighting the wrong things with narcissists. We're too busy fighting against their criticisms and their insults and this thing and that thing and their smear campaigns and their gaslighting tactics, when these things are really just small fries. They really are. It's the narcissist firing a little pea shooter at you. Pew, pew, gotcha. And while you're playing their game, you're actually getting sucked in like a tractor beam, getting sucked into a place right where they want to keep you. And this is why we need to know what you're really fighting against so you can set boundaries against the main thing. Let's get into it. My name is Kevin, and this is... Now, before I do continue, let me remind you that I'm here to support you. Down in the description box, right below this video, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I take telephone calls and video calls through Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp, so you do not have to fight narcissistic abuse alone. Reach out to me. Let's strategize together to get you out of that toxic relationship onto your path in life where God wants you to be. Also, the Royal We does have a private membership available for you where you can get daily life support from me with a growing community of people from all over the world. We do have weekly fellowship together, weekly Zoom calls, and so much more, all in the privacy of a members-only app. So head on down to the description box and download the Royal We membership app. Now, if you do not mind, I'm enjoying a nice cigar. It just seems to fit in this beautiful scenery. Plus, it keeps the mosquitoes away. Keeps lots of things away. Keeps some of the subscribers away. That's okay. All right, let's get into this. The main thing, as I said, we've been fighting narcissistic abuse the wrong way. When you focus on the criticisms, the insults, the smear campaign, the gaslighting, you personalize your experience with narcissistic abuse, personalizing it just with that one person or just those people, and therefore being stuck in both your mind, in your heart, and in your soul, and in your energy in that toxic relationship. But what if I told you that what you're really up against when you fight narcissistically abusive people is something that is a whole lot bigger, something a whole lot broader, and you're going to come across it in every aspect of your life, from where you work, to the government, to society, to the schools, everything. And if you understand what this thing is that you're fighting against, what you're truly fighting against, you'll put the right boundaries against that thing, and you will completely strip narcissistic people of any and all power. This thing that we're going to talk about in this message happens to be the legs that all narcissistic people stand on. And what I'm going to share with you will show you or give you the insight that you need to be able to kick the legs right out from underneath any narcissistic person. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. It's no surprise. It's simple, yet it's complicated. You ready? All right, the number one thing that you are fighting against when you deal with narcissistic people is entitlement. Everybody say this together with me. Entitlement. Now, some of you right now are saying, Kevin, I've already heard this video, right? This is not a light bulb moment, Kevin. This is more of the same, right? You're not telling me something I didn't know. We all know narcissistic people are entitled people. Yes, but I don't believe we've taken a deep enough dive into what entitlement truly is, for the sake of understanding that what you're battling against is actually entitlement and not the narcissistic person. If you face and learn how to deal with and resist the entitled nature that exists in this world, you won't have to deal with narcissistic people, because narcissistic people prop themselves up on entitlement. Their platform is that of entitlement. The legs that they run on is that of entitlement. So let's break down entitlement so we understand exactly what you're up against, beginning with my first point, which is that entitlement, number one, is not love. Some of you are saying, Kevin, well, no, duh. Of course entitlement's not love. Yeah, but a lot of people make this mistake, coming across entitlement and believing that it's love. So entitlement is actually the opposite of love. Entitlement is possessive. Entitlement is, this is mine. You owe me. It's mine. I want. Do this. Do that. I'm entitled to this. You owe me something. Parents can become entitled with their children. You're my children. You do what I say. I'm not going to let my children do this. Mine, right? In-laws can become entitled. You married my sister. You married into my family. Boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives can act out of entitlement. It's a possessiveness. I possess you. I own you. That's the opposite of love, my friends. Love, on the other hand, is welcoming. Love is warming. Love is inviting, and love allows. Love allows for a space of peace for you to make a decision as to whether or not you want to be there. Entitlement doesn't allow anything. Entitlement demands. Now, where a lot of people make the mistake, especially when you're younger, when you're naive, and you're getting into a relationship, is you can come across somebody's entitlement and believe that it's love. How many of you have fallen for that person that's like, you're my babe, you're my girl, you're my man. Oh, you're not going to the gym. I'm not going to let my man go here. I'm not going to let my girl go here. I'm not going to let you're mine, mine. If you're not careful, the camera will collapse right in front of you. All right, so if you're not careful, you can buy into that as being love. There we go. Gotcha. You're back with me. So it's important to understand the difference between love and entitlement. Just because somebody makes claims over your life in a possessive way, you're mine, it's mine, does not mean it's love. As a matter of fact, it's absent of love. Possessiveness isn't loving. Possessiveness is possessiveness. And later on down the road, this becomes excruciatingly painful on anybody in a toxic relationship. This turns into abuse. Possessiveness, you're mine, turns into abuse. It's not love. As I said, love is inviting, love is welcoming, love is allowing. So, first and foremost, entitlement is possessiveness. Entitlement says, I want. Love is freedom. Love is, I allow. Entitlement is, I say what to do. Love is, I allow this. Does this make sense? Now that we have this understanding of the difference between entitlement and love, let's move on to the next point, which is that all narcissistic people operate out of entitlement. Now, it does not matter in this message. We're not going to get into why narcissistic people operate out of entitlement. What we do know for sure is that they lack empathy. Now, why they lack empathy, whether it's because of their upbringing or because they got hit in the head playing football or because they drank too much or did too many drugs, we're not even going to talk about that. Personally, I believe that it's nature. I believe they're born that way. It happens to be in their DNA. It's part of their biology, their genes, whatever the case may be. Some of you think that they're just lizard people. I get that. That's fine. Some of you think that they're aliens. That's fine. I get that too. Many people think they're Nephilim, and I would get that too. I'm not going to disagree with any or all of the above. But what I am going to say for the sake of this message is that they are absent of love. They're not capable of true love. They're not capable of creating that space, allowing other people to choose them. Okay? They have no empathy. Empathy is required for that type of love. So instead, in order to have any relationships, in order to maintain relationships, they have to fill that void where love should be, and they fill it with entitlement. So you'll notice with any narcissistic person, they get into a relationship, the closest thing they come to love is love bombing, right? Once they've love bombed you, though, it goes right into entitlement. Everybody say it one more time with me. Entitlement, as I do a switch from outside to inside in the studio. Now then, where this really gets sad and complicated is for children who are brought up in a family dynamic that is absent of love, but instead operates out of entitlement. We are your parents. This is your family. You will do this, and you are ours, and you belong to this family, and right? A child will grow up in that environment and confuse that entitlement for love. Love is absent. It's all entitlement. Now, I first came across this form of entitlement, this radicalized form of entitlement. Well, let me say this again. I didn't first come across it, but my eyes were first opened. It's like God opened my eyes to this radicalized form of entitlement through the narcissistic in-laws that I dealt with. That family dynamic was 100% nothing but entitlement, absent of any love. Now, when I first married the mother of my kids and we got involved through the love bombing, and I accepted the love bombing, and I thought that I was accepted into a family dynamic of love, but then when the bullying and the controlling and the cursing and the name calling and the pushiness and all that stuff came about, I started to distance myself from that because that's not what I want for my family. Not to sound entitled, but I believe in love. I believe in welcoming and in warmth and a safe space where people want to be there. I no longer wanted to be involved in that. And so as I started to back out, I was met with this, hey, you married into this family. How many of you can relate to hearing something like that? You're a part of this family now, as if they own my marriage. And by the way, when you get married, how many of you are aware of this? Marriage is about becoming a new family. It's not about joining somebody else's family. If you're not ready to become a new family and separate from your old family, do yourself a favor. Don't get married. I promise you it will create nothing but problems as you are having a hard time separating from your old family to become a brand new family, create your own new traditions, create your own new thing. And that's what I was up against with the narcissistic in-laws. And it got so bad, not only the bullying and the pushing, but as I distanced myself, they were trolling. They were following me. And I was receiving messages like, hey, you married my sister, so I will not leave you alone. I was thinking to myself, are you threatening me? Like, what is this? I haven't come across this. Absent of love, attempting to control through entitlement. This is what I was experiencing. In fact, I believe that one of the things that the marriage that I was in, one of the purposes, one of the things that God allowed through that marriage was to break the spell of that entitlement over the mother of my kids. She came from that family. That's the only love that she knew, was that entitled love from that family. Moving 5 states away, bringing her into an environment where she was then able to flourish and meet friends and find real sisterhood, real sisters, real people who actually love her through allowing her, not through demanding, through entitlement. And oftentimes you do have to separate yourself and create a great distance between you and your family of origin so you can break the spell of entitlement while calling that love and step into people allowing love in your life, right? It was a very eye-opening experience for me, and I'm very grateful for my role, and I'm grateful for the part in separating and breaking the spell, not only over the mother of my kids, but over my life, gaining insight into what entitlement looks like, and stepping into a place in life where you're able to allow and build true love and true connection. Now, moving on to number 2, this is point number 2 now, and that's this. All narcissistic people, and I mean all narcissistic people, including all psychopaths, all sociopaths, perhaps all cluster Bs and even borderlines, all people absent of empathy and love through empathy, all of them operate and stand upon the legs of entitlement. You see, they have to, because they have to fill in that void of love, where love allows a space for a relationship. Love allows for a person to choose you, okay? Entitlement doesn't allow that. Entitlement is fearful of giving somebody the opportunity to love and to choose. Entitlement says, I don't trust that. But this person might someday leave. So that void of love has to be filled in with something, otherwise they have no relationships, right? Even narcissistic people want relationships. They want companionship. They want family, even though they don't even really know what it is. They desire these things. So in order to fill in the void of where love should be, they use entitlement. All narcissistic people stand upon entitlement. This is what makes them controlling. This is what makes them forceful. This is what makes them troll you, harass you, push you, claim you, order you around, threaten you, all from being propped up on these legs of entitlement. So point number 2 is that all narcissistic people operate under the spirit of entitlement. This is what props them up. This is what they stand upon. And now this gets into point number 3, the final point, okay? If you understand that the battle that you are in is against entitlement, it's not even against the narcissistic person. The narcissistic person is nothing but a puppet of entitlement. So what is entitlement? Some of you might be saying, well, I thought entitlement is a behavior of narcissistic people. And this is exactly why we're talking about this right now, because it's so much greater than just a behavior of narcissistic people. Entitlement happens to be a mindset. Deeper than that, it happens to be a way of living. Deeper than that, it's a principality. It's a concept. It's a spirit even, if you want to call it that. Yes, entitlement is a spirit. It's an entity. It's a force that grips narcissistic people, or that narcissistic people have bonded with, have unified with entitlement in order to get what they want in this life. But why is it important to look at entitlement as separate? The Bible has this to say: we battle not against flesh and blood, but against what? Powers and principalities. Amen? Many of us don't fully understand what principalities are. A lot of people will hear that verse out of the Bible and say, well, we battle against demons. Yes, true. But we also battle against certain mindsets, certain ways of living that are opposed to God, that are anti-love, that are anti-Christ, that are against love that people seek and truly deserve. That's what principalities are. Entitlement is one of those principalities. It's a way of living. It's an entity that consumes a narcissistic person. And therefore, they operate out of this entity, out of this principle called entitlement. So when you fight a narcissistic person, when you're up against their criticisms and their demands and their controlling behavior, I encourage you to separate the person. Well, not to the extent of loving them, because it's one. They have accepted entitlement as their way of living. So you can't fully separate them. However, for the sake of no longer fighting with them, turn your focus to entitlement as its own thing. And when you turn your focus towards entitlement and make your fight against entitlement, against the principality, you won't even have to deal with the narcissist, because it's the entitlement that carries the narcissist. So if you learn to block entitlement from entering into your life, narcissists have no power. They collapse because their entitlement does not work with you. So how do you fight entitlement? Well, the Bible says this: resist the devil and the devil flees. And I believe that entitlement works in the same way. Resist entitlement and the narcissist, psychopath, sociopath will flee. You see, they will only be allowed access into your life through what the entitlement causes you to believe you have to be in their life. So by fighting the entitlement, by saying, I resist that, I'm not going to do what you say, I am not a part of your family, I'm not going to call you sister, I'm not going to call you brother, I'm not going to submit because you tell me to, because you've not created a space of love that allows me to be in it. Instead, you're forcing your way, you're bullying your way, so I block that entitlement, I put up boundaries against that entitlement, I back up from that entitlement, and the narcissistic person falls. Their name calling, their criticisms, none of that even matters anymore, because you are resisting submitting yourself to entitlement. Does this make sense? Nod with me if you understand what I'm saying. How you can separate the narcissistic person from the grip on their life, which is entitlement. And I'm not saying to separate to the point of trying to love those people, because they have invited and they have embodied entitlement. So they are in fact one. But if you address the entitlement, you won't get involved in little name calling, stupid bantering with narcissistic people. You will claim victory instead over the entitlement as a principle, the entitlement, which is their nature. You'll claim victory over that, and the narcissistic person can do nothing except leave. And I've experienced this. Having left the narcissistic in-laws, taking the mother of my kids out of California to the Midwest, 5 states away, it is a huge boundary against the entitled nature of those people. Not only that, but then I blocked them through social media, told them stay away, leave alone, and basically addressing the entitlement. You are not entitled to this. You are not entitled to say that what you have is love for us when you don't. You are not entitled to call me brother when you're nowhere near somebody I would call brother or sister. That's entitlement talking. I remember in one interaction I had with one of the narcissistic in-laws, I in fact reminded them, I said, you're half sister, because that's what she is, a half sister. They're not even fully blood related. And this person said, she is 1,000% or 1,000,000% my sister. I've never called her half sister. 1,000%. This is how narcissists are. They are exaggerated in their entitlement. 1,000% my sister. And I remember I called it out right then and there. I said, that sounds like entitlement talking. I don't play entitlement games. She is, in fact, nothing more than a half sister. Don't you have different moms? I am not going to bow down to entitlement. Now, people who want to come into my life allowing a space for love, I'm all in. People who want to come into my life and say, this is what it is. This is what you have to do. This is who we are. And you have to be a part of it. And I will not leave. I'm going to say, nope. Nope on a rope. Absolutely not. I am not going to submit to entitlement. I do not play entitlement games with people, because entitlement is not love. Entitlement is evil. Entitlement is the opposite of love. So the three main points of this to help you understand what you're really fighting against are: number one, entitlement is not love. It's the opposite of love. So if you're in a relationship or you've dealt with parents or family who operate out of entitlement, and perhaps you've never really experienced what true love is, and you deserve true love, but you have to break the spell of entitlement and break the spell of being forced to call that love, because it's not. Point number two is that all narcissistic people, unfortunately, operate out of entitlement because they do not know love. They have a void where love should be. They're absent of empathy, absent of love. They have no choice but to operate out of entitlement, which means you are going to have to distance yourself and cut ties with all narcissistic people. Psychopaths and sociopaths do not submit to their entitled nature. Point number three, understand that you can, in fact, separate the entitlement from the narcissistic person so that you do not go back and forth in meaningless banter, pea-shooting competitions, name-callings, and put-downs with the person. Instead, your focus on the fight with entitlement and say, nope, you resist the devil and the devil flees. You resist the entitlement, the narcissist and their entitled nature leaves you alone. I hope this message reaches some of you right now at this very moment when you need it the most. As I said, I am here to support you. Down in the description box right below this video, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I take telephone calls and video calls through Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. So if you're dealing with entitlement, if you believe you're under the spell of an entitled family or an entitled marriage situation or entitled coworkers or entitled friends, do not mess around with their pea shooter games. Break the spell of entitlement, resist the entitlement, make your focus on the entitlement, and the narcissistic person will fall and they will leave you alone. Address the entitlement and you expose the narcissistic person. I'll be here to take your telephone calls down in the description box. So head on down there, schedule that time with me. I'd love to help you out. Be sure to subscribe to the Royal We. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any future Royal We content. Check out one of these videos recommended by the YouTube algorithm. And I'll be back with more videos for you right here on the Royal We. Bye.